All right, welcome back, everyone. Today we are talking about something I wish more people actually talked about, and it's this. I don't think most of us struggle with boundaries because we don't know how to say no. We struggle with boundaries because we're not actually clear on what matters enough to us to protect it. Those are two very different problems, because if you're clear that something matters to you, protecting it becomes a whole lot easier. If you're clear that your marriage matters, you protect time, you protect energy, and you create space for it. If you're clear that your health matters to you, you begin making decisions that support it. If you are clear that being present with your kids and your family matters, you start paying attention to what keeps pulling you away from them. And when I say clear, I don't mean just saying those things matter. Because it's really easy for us to say, yes, my spouse matters. Of course, my kids matter. Of course, being more present matters. Those are easy to say. What I mean by clear is that we actually need to go a lot deeper and put our words into action. And how do we do this? Because boundaries don't begin with saying no. They begin with getting clear on what deserves your yes. Now, this changes the conversation because now we're not talking about saying no. We're talking about self-leadership. I know this because I spent years getting it backwards. When I was a bedside nurse, I truly believed that the best nurses were the ones everyone could count on. And here's the interesting part. I still believe the best nurses are the ones people can count on, but my definition of what can count on actually means has dramatically changed. Back then, my definition looked a lot like this. If my shift was ending, but another patient came in, I stayed. If a coworker needed help, I jumped in, no questions asked. If there was one more thing that needed to be done before I walked out the door, I convinced myself I had 5 more minutes. But we all know those 5 minutes are never actually 5 minutes. If someone called out sick, I could stay for another 4 hours. I already did 12, what's 4 more? If an infant was crashing, or there was a code delivery, or a baby needed immediate attention, I chased it. I chased it because I believed that's what being a good nurse looked like, right? You stepped in, you figured it out, you became the person everyone could turn to and count on. The interesting part is nobody was forcing me to do that. I had simply built an identity around being the dependable one, the capable one, the one who could always handle more. And honestly, I wore that like a badge of honor. It became a part of who I was until one day I realized something. I had become so good at taking care of everyone else around me that I no longer knew who I was the second I walked out the doors of that facility. At work, I knew exactly who I was. I had purpose. I had confidence. I knew what was expected of me. But then I'd get in my car, drive home, walk through the door, and crash. I knew I was living the same cycle over and over and over again, but I didn't know how to stop it. I didn't know how to change it. I didn't know how to get out of it. Looking back now, I realized I wasn't just practicing nursing. I was practicing a pattern. And the thing about patterns is they don't stay where they started. Because I didn't leave that version of me at the hospital. I brought her home. That always on version of me, the one who anticipated needs before people even had to ask, the one whose first instinct was always, sure, I can make that work. I'll figure it out. She came home too. And without even realizing it, I started living the rest of my life exactly the same way as I did at work. I thought being loving meant always being available. I thought being dependable meant always saying yes. I thought putting myself last was simply what good, hard-working, successful people do. But eventually I realized something. I wasn't struggling with boundaries. I was struggling with clarity. And I think that's where so many people get stuck, because we spend all of our time trying to figure out how to say no, how to stop feeling guilty no matter what decision we make. And we try to figure out how to create better boundaries or better work-life balance. But how do you know what deserves protection if you've never stopped to define what actually matters to you? How do you know what deserves your yes if you're not even clear on the life you're trying to build? For me, that became the real work. I had to stop long enough to ask myself, is this really how I want the rest of my life to be? I ask myself that every day. Is this how it's always going to be? I remember looking at myself in the mirror thinking, I am too young to feel this old. There has to be a better way. And there is. So this is what I started asking myself to gain more clarity. Who do I want to be? How do I want to feel? How do I want to show up in my marriage, in motherhood, in my work, and in the relationships that matter most? I got really crystal clear. I put words to it, not just thoughts. I wrote it down on a piece of paper, because until I got clear on those things, every decision was reactive. Every request felt urgent. Every opportunity felt like something I needed to say yes to in order to get to. But once I became clear on the kind of life I wanted to live and who I wanted to be in all of the spaces that mattered to me, something shifted. I stopped filtering my decisions through, can I make this work? And instead started asking, does this move me closer to the woman I am becoming? Or does it pull me farther away from her? That changes everything. Boundaries then stopped feeling like rejection. They stopped feeling guilt-ridden. They stopped feeling selfish. They stopped feeling like I owed everyone an explanation for my no's. They became something a lot simpler. They became a reflection of what mattered most to me and my life. And when you're truly clear on what matters, you don't have to defend every decision you make. You simply just start making decisions that are aligned with the life you are intentionally creating, right? The one you want. That's why I don't believe boundaries are actually the starting point. We're blowing that up today. I believe that clarity is. And that is why in all of my sessions, that is where we start. Boundaries are simply what clarity looks like in practice. In other words, boundaries become the guardrails. Your clarity becomes your roadmap. See the difference? Boundaries are what keep you on the path you want to be going. But if you don't know your path, what good are boundaries? And honestly, this right here is exactly why the Elevate Your Frequency workbook exists. I found myself having these conversations over and over and over again with the women I am coaching. They didn't need another planner. They didn't need another productivity system. They didn't need more outlandish habits. They needed a place to slow down long enough to reconnect with themselves and actually hear what it is they really want. To get clear on the life they wanted to be living, the person they wanted to be, right? The person they want to become, the career that they are building, and maybe most importantly, how they wanted to feel while living it. Because once you're clear on those things, your decisions begin to change. Your priorities naturally change. And you want to know what becomes a byproduct? Your boundaries. They change too. And that's why I didn't create one worksheet on boundaries. You won't find that in my workbook. I built an entire gain clarity section in this workbook. It's its own section because I wanted people to have a place to rediscover who they are before they ask how they can redesign their lives. Inside that section, you're going to walk through your goals, and not the ones you think you need to have, but the ones that are truly on your heart. You actually have a space where you craft a vision for the life you're building. You get to reconnect with what success actually means to you. In other words, your own definition of success. And you begin getting really honest about how you want to show up in every area of your life. That's where boundaries are born. Not from guilt, not from discipline, not from trying harder, but from finally becoming clear on what deserves your yes and what no longer does. So if today's conversation stirred something in you or touched on something, I want to leave you with this. Don't start by asking, how do I get better at saying no? I want you to start by asking, am I clear on the life I'm trying to build? Because once you have that answer, the boundaries begin writing themselves.